The night rain poured down relentlessly, cold and harsh, soaking not only the clothes, but also seeping deep into the soul of a 7-year-old girl. Angela stood there, in the darkness of the night, beneath the crumbling walls of a rundown apartment complex, gripping a tattered teddy bear. The only thing that offered her some comfort amidst the invisible pain. No one will ever love you. The words of Adana, the stepmother whom Angela still called Mom, were spoken like a final verdict, drenched in coldness and cruelty. The rain continued to fall, as if to hide the tears Angela had learned to conceal. She was left with nothing but broken fragments of trust, shattered little by little with every word spoken by the one she thought would love her. That night, Angela had no idea that, in that very moment, a tiny spark of hope was beginning to form in her world. Meanwhile, amidst the pouring rain, a luxury car sped through the poor streets, where heartbreaking stories like Angela's played out every day. A place few like CEO Landon Grant, accustomed to success, would ever enter. But tonight, this storm seemed to have led him to a place he never thought he'd go. Landon hadn't intended to pass through this neighborhood. In fact, he'd never been here before. But tonight, for some reason, he turned down this street, where dilapidated houses leaned precariously, reflecting the poverty of those living within. And then he saw her, the small figure standing in the rain, clutching the old teddy bear. She wasn't trembling from the cold, but from the fear in her eyes. A fear that perhaps only children who have been hurt can understand. Landon slammed on the brakes, staring at her in the dim light of the headlights. And then he saw those eyes. They weren't just the eyes of a child. They were the eyes of Lily, his sister, the one he hadn't heard from in 3 years. He couldn't believe his eyes, but it was true. His sister's eyes were staring back at him through a little girl he'd never known. This girl, Angela, was Lily's daughter, the child he never knew existed. A strange feeling surged within Landon. This wasn't just a random encounter. This was fate, or more precisely, a call from the past, from a love he'd let slip through his fingers. And tonight, it was this little girl who had opened a door, leading him into a world he had long forgotten. Angela's story wasn't just about an abandoned child. It was also Landon's journey, one of a man who had built a solid empire with hard work and determination, but lost the most important relationships in his life. Tonight, the rain not only extinguished Angela's loneliness, but it also sparked a glimmer of hope for Landon, who now had to face choices he never thought he'd have to make. And with each step Landon took, the story began to unfold. Not just about Angela, but about the secrets he'd never known, the hidden relationships, and the mistakes he regretted. But tonight, the only thing that mattered was Angela, and the journey to save her from the cruelty of Adana. Landon stood outside the fragile door of the old apartment building where Angela lived. The rain still fell, relentlessly, as though it wanted to bury all hope in the darkness. He took a deep breath, trying to fill the void in his heart that Angela's appearance had opened up. He didn't know where to begin, but one thing was certain. This girl was undeniably connected to Lily, his sister, the one he had missed for so many years. He knocked on the door, feeling the emptiness in the air, as if the whole house was sighing, not just because of the rain, but because of the secrets hidden behind these walls. After a few seconds, the door opened, and Adana, the woman who was raising Angela, stood there with a suspicious look, her sharp eyes scanning him from head to toe. "Who are you?" Adana asked, her voice soft but calculating. She wasn't the least bit surprised to see him standing at the door, but there was something in her gaze that made Landon feel like he was facing a wall. "I'm Landon Grant. I'd like to talk to you about Angela," he replied, trying to keep his voice calm. Adana looked at him for a long time, as if measuring whether he was worth listening to. She then opened the door wider and stepped back into the house. "Come in," Adana said, her tone not friendly, but also not refusing. "But don't expect this to be easy." Landon stepped inside, immediately sensing the heaviness of the atmosphere. The apartment was dark, cold, lacking the light and warmth the child needed. Angela wasn't in the living room, but he could hear her whispering from the small bedroom at the end of the hallway. "Angela," Adana called, her voice hoarse. "Come out and meet this man." A moment of silence passed, and then Angela, holding her old teddy bear, stepped out of the shadows. She stood at the doorway, her gaze uncertain as she looked at Landon. But when the light from the lamp illuminated her face, Landon nearly gasped. Those eyes, they were Lily's eyes. There was no mistaking it. "Hello, sweetheart," Landon said, moving closer to Angela. "I'm Landon. I'm your uncle." Angela didn't respond immediately, but her eyes slowly widened, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. She stepped back a little, then stopped. "You are my uncle?" Angela repeated, her voice a mixture of surprise and fear. Landon nodded, but he couldn't fully draw her in. He knew it would take time. Her world had been too shaken. What she needed wasn't just a relative showing up in the middle of a stormy night. She needed time, patience, and above all, the protection she had never had. Edna stood silently by, her eyes never leaving them, as if she wanted to control every move, watching from afar but full of power. She didn't say anything, but Landon could feel the tension rising in the air. They both understood that this wouldn't be easy. Edna certainly didn't want anyone interfering with her life or Angela's. And more than that, she was hiding secrets. Secrets Landon was about to face. "Can you tell me about your mom?" Landon asked, not rushing, but wanting to create a safe space for the girl. "What do you remember about your mom?" Angela didn't answer right away. She stood still, her fingers clutching her teddy bear as though searching for some comfort. Each question, each word from Landon could be a dangerous step, but he couldn't give up. He couldn't let this girl grow up in the shadows anymore. I I miss my mom so much," Angela whispered, her eyes gazing out the window. "She used to sing to me. She said I was her little star. She said I would always shine, no matter how dark the world was." Landon felt the pain in every word she spoke. He knew those memories were all she had left of her mother, and in his heart, he felt a sharp pain, because he hadn't known about this little girl, about Lily's life in those last years. "I'll help you," Landon said, feeling a resolve in his voice. "You don't have to be afraid anymore. I promise I won't let you face this alone." Angela looked at him for a long time, then slowly walked toward him, still clutching her teddy bear. She didn't say anything, but found a bit of comfort in the warmth Landon offered. Angela's story and Landon's were just beginning, but it wouldn't be as simple as the happy family stories people told. This was a story about choices, about love that had been hurt, and about hope that had been shattered, but still had something left to heal. Landon knew that, to save Angela, he would have to confront the dark secrets Edna was hiding and the mistakes he had made in the past. But tonight, the only thing that mattered was Angela. He wouldn't let her be hurt anymore. Landon couldn't stop the whirlwind of thoughts spinning in his mind. The little girl, Angela, whom he had just met, was Lily's daughter, his sister, whom he had lost contact with so many years ago. He hadn't known anything about her life, about his sister's family, and now seeing Angela, he felt like he had missed too much. The guilt weighed heavily on him, growing more intense as he watched Angela clutch her teddy bear, her eyes filled with both fear and hope. She seemed like a part of Lily, a part he had never known, and a part he now had to protect. The rain outside continued to pour, drumming against the windows of the old apartment. Edna stood silently, observing the interaction between Landon and Angela. She wasn't showing any sign of concern, but Landon could feel something strange in the way Edna controlled the situation, as if she were constantly monitoring his every move, always ready to block him. Landon turned to face Edna, trying to keep his voice steady. "You know, I found Angela for one simple reason. I want to help her. I'm her uncle, and I have the right to take care of her and protect her." Edna didn't respond immediately. She just looked at him with sharp eyes. "Your niece?" she sneered. "I don't see any concern from you before. You didn't care when Lily was alive, so don't pretend to now." Landon felt Edna's words like knives cutting into his heart. The guilt surged again, and he knew she was right. He had let pride and grief destroy any chance to connect with Lily, and now with his sister gone, all he had left were regrets and confusion, looking at a niece he didn't even know existed. "I was wrong," Landon admitted, his voice dropping. "But I won't let Angela live like this anymore. She deserves a better life." Edna remained silent, not replying. She turned away as if deliberately ignoring what Landon had just said, then coldly stated, "Angela is my daughter now, and I won't let anyone, especially you, interfere with her life." Landon felt his blood boil. He couldn't let this continue. He knew what he had to do. He couldn't allow Idana to control Angela any longer, not let her live under the manipulation of someone he was certain was hiding dark secrets. "You can't keep doing this," Landon said, his voice firmer than ever. "I won't stand by anymore. She's my family and I will protect her at all costs." That night, Landon couldn't sleep. Everything kept spinning in his mind, and the more he thought about it, the more he realized the danger Idana posed. She wasn't a kind stepmother, not someone simply trying to help an orphan child. She was a manipulator, someone who knew how to make others feel helpless, and he couldn't let her continue hurting Angela. The next morning, he decided to take action. He went to the library where Ayana worked, the one person who had helped Angela open up in the past weeks. Ayana had always been someone Landon trusted, and now she was the only person who could help him get Angela out of this dangerous life. When Landon entered the library, Ayana was sitting at the desk, organizing some old books. The light from the window highlighted her calm demeanor. She turned to look at him, her eyes gentle but full of understanding. "We need to do something," Landon said as he sat down across from Ayana. "Angela can't keep living with Idana. I need your help. I need you to help me get her out of there." Ayana looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "We won't be able to do this easily. Idana isn't someone who'll be easily beaten. But if we have evidence, if we can prove that she's been manipulating and abusing Angela, we can stand a chance." Landon felt a flicker of hope in his heart. Ayana was right. The only way to save Angela was through legal action, to give her a real chance at a better life. He could no longer stand by and let this woman continue to control her. "We'll need everything we can get, Ayana," Landon said, determination rising within him. "She doesn't deserve to live in fear. She needs love and protection, and I'll do whatever it takes to give her that." In his heart, Landon knew this battle wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to face whatever came next. He couldn't let history repeat itself. He wouldn't lose Angela too. The next day, Landon couldn't wait any longer. Everything had already started moving too quickly to go back. He sought out a well-known lawyer in the field of custody rights, someone he knew wouldn't give up easily. Angela's life depended on these decisions, and Landon couldn't afford to make any mistakes. At the lawyer's office, he met Eleanor Hayes, a lawyer with sharp eyes and an unwavering determination. After hearing Landon's story, she wasted no time in speaking. "We can regain custody of Angela, but it won't be easy. Idana is very skilled at creating a perfect image for herself in front of the public. She's always prepared for these meetings, and she'll fight hard to keep control of Angela. But if we have solid evidence, if we can prove that she's been manipulating and psychologically abusing Angela, we'll have a chance." Landon nodded, the tension in his chest growing. He knew this was going to be a tough battle, but the most important thing was to gather enough evidence to expose Idana for who she truly was and protect Angela from the woman who had controlled her for so long. The plan and the next steps. Eleanor began outlining a detailed plan. They would need to gather evidence about Angela's physical and emotional state to prove that Idana wasn't a capable stepmother, nor someone with the moral character to care for the girl. The first step was to find a way to approach Angela and get Ayana's help. Someone who had already helped Angela open up, to show that the girl was living in a dangerous and unsafe environment. Landon decided to take Angela to the library once again, where Ayana was waiting. He knew this would be an important meeting, not just a place where Angela felt safe, but where the little girl could finally share the things she had endured during her time with Idana. When Angela entered the library, she appeared hesitant, but this time, there was a difference in her eyes. She was no longer the scared little girl. She was beginning to open up, little by little, in a way that Landon had never seen before. He stood back quietly in the corner of the room, watching the shift. Ayana smiled warmly when she saw Angela, her hand gently taking the little girl's hand. "What shall we do today?" Ayana asked, sitting beside Angela. "Can you read me a story?" Angela asked softly, but with a hopeful tone. Ayana nodded, picking up a children's book and beginning to read. Each sentence, each word Ayana spoke, was like a bond forming, strengthening the connection between them. Landon stood still, silently observing the small but miraculous change in Angela's expression. The girl no longer shrank away. She wasn't avoiding anymore. Angela was starting to trust again. After the story ended, Ayana didn't rush to leave. She continued to talk with Angela, gently pulling out more memories and feelings from the past. Slowly, Angela began to open up more. She spoke about the memories with her biological mother, the afternoons spent playing in the yard, the lullabies her mother used to sing to her before everything had gone wrong. These memories were precious fragments, helping Ayana understand Angela better, and why the little girl had been so fearful and withdrawn for so long. The more Angela spoke, the more Landon felt the ache in his heart. This little girl had lived in such horrific isolation, forced to accept the wrongs Adana had inflicted on her. Yet the thing that gave him hope was the small signs of strength Angela was showing. She was no longer silent, no longer keeping everything locked inside. Ayana's words and actions had been like little rays of light guiding Angela out of the darkness into a new world. Landon knew with all his heart that Angela needed to be freed from Adana's grip. He wasn't going to let her continue to live in fear. He couldn't allow Adana to take away the life Angela deserved any longer. Connecting through the smallest things. After the story ended, Ayana didn't rush to leave. She continued to talk with Angela, gently pulling out more memories and feelings from the past. Slowly, Angela began to open up more. She spoke about the memories with her biological mother, the afternoons spent playing in the yard, the lullabies her mother used to sing to her before everything had gone wrong. These memories were precious fragments, helping Ayana understand Angela better and why the little girl had been so fearful and withdrawn for so long. The more Angela spoke, the more Landon felt the ache in his heart. This little girl had lived in such horrific isolation, forced to accept the wrongs Adana had inflicted on her. Yet the thing that gave him hope was the small signs of strength Angela was showing. She was no longer silent, no longer keeping everything locked inside. Ayana's words and actions had been like little rays of light guiding Angela out of the darkness into a new world. And Landon, with all his determination, knew that he would not let anyone, especially Adana, stop this little girl from finding happiness and peace. The legal battle wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to face whatever came next. He couldn't let history repeat itself. He couldn't lose Angela too. The following day, Landon woke up with an unsettling feeling. The legal battle for Angela's custody had begun, and he knew it was going to be a long and difficult fight. Edna, with all her cunning strategies and lies, wouldn't give up easily. Everything depended on gathering enough evidence to expose her true nature. Landon knew he couldn't do this alone. Ayana had become a crucial part of Angela's life, and she was the only one he could trust right now. Along with Eleanor Hayes, his lawyer, they were preparing for everything ahead. But deep inside, Landon couldn't shake the growing unease. He knew that every decision made could change Angela's fate, and that added weight to the responsibility he now bore. The trial begins. The day the trial started, the atmosphere in the courtroom became tense from the very first moments. Eyes filled with doubt and anticipation, as if everyone was waiting for the truth to be revealed. Landon sat at the front, next to Ayana and Eleanor, his eyes never leaving Angela, who sat quietly beside him, holding his hand. The testimony began with Adana's lawyer. She repeated that Angela had been raised in a stable environment, with everything necessary for her development. She also insisted that she was the only one who could provide Angela with the love and protection she needed. But when it was Eleanor's turn to speak, the atmosphere in the room shifted. She stood up, holding documents, and began presenting the evidence they had gathered over the past few weeks. "Your Honor, I would like to present several documents related to Angela's condition," Eleanor began, her voice steady and unwavering. She started showing images, records, and copies of documents from meetings with psychological counselors, as well as drawings Angela had made during her sessions with Ayana. The drawings depicted cramped spaces, threatening adults, and, most notably, images of the girl locked away in dark rooms. Ayana stood beside Eleanor, her voice calm yet resolute. "Your Honor, these drawings are not just a reflection of Angela's mental state, but a warning that the environment she has been living in is unsafe. The actions and words of Adana have affected Angela in ways we cannot ignore." Landon observed everyone in the courtroom, and he could see the change in their expressions. They no longer saw Angela as a helpless child, but as a victim of a cruel game. The next witnesses, including the psychologist who had monitored Angela over the past few weeks, confirmed the signs of severe emotional trauma and the abusive tactics Adana had used on the girl. The battle from both sides. The trial lasted for a week, and each day was filled with tension. Irina was always present, calm and self-assured, but there were moments when she couldn't conceal her anxiety. Her attempts to twist the truth began to unravel, exposed by undeniable evidence. But the fight had never been easy. As the trial neared its conclusion, Irina played her final card to capture the court's attention. She stood up, her voice trembling but determined. Landon Grant, you only show up when everything is already too late. You abandoned your sister Lily, and now you want to rescue a niece you've known nothing about. You don't deserve to take care of Angela. I'm the only one who has raised her these past 3 years. You say I've abused her? You don't even know her. Landon stood up, his eyes blazing with determination. You don't understand, Adana. You say I didn't care, but you forget that I lost my family. I was too late to save Lily, but I won't let you harm Angela. You don't have the right to decide her life. No one has that right but Angela herself. Landon's words rang out powerfully in the courtroom, and everyone had to listen. He looked toward Angela, who was now standing confidently, holding her teddy bear, Mr. Patches, tightly. Her eyes were no longer filled with fear, and that was the most undeniable proof of the love and protection Landon and Ayana had given her. An important decision. Finally, the court issued its decision. After considering all the evidence and witness testimonies, we have determined that custody of Angela will be awarded to her family, Landon Grant. This decision takes effect immediately. A wave of relief and joy swept over Landon. He turned to look at Angela, who smiled gently, but her eyes were different now. No longer the eyes of a lost child, but the eyes of a girl who had found the protection, love, and safety she had always deserved. The trial was over, and Landon knew Angela's life would now take a new turn, a life where she no longer had to live in fear, where she would be loved and cared for the way she was always meant to be. With Ayana and Angela by his side, Landon would begin to build a real family, not one formed by blood, but one built on love and choice. Landon sat in the living room of their new house, his hand tightly holding Angela's, feeling a peace he had never experienced in all these years. The soft afternoon light streamed through the windows, casting long shadows on the wooden floor. The house, though simple, had a strange warmth to it. It wasn't the luxury of expensive paintings or lavish furniture, but the warmth of love, of people trying to rebuild their lives from broken pieces. Angela sat on the sofa, surrounded by newly bought books. She flipped through the pages, her eyes bright with curiosity. Every now and then, she would stop, point at the pictures in the books, and share little stories, innocent, childlike stories about the world she was discovering. Uncle Landon, do you think my mom would be happy to see me like this? Angela looked up, her eyes shimmering but with a hint of worry. Questions like this, though not the first time, still made Landon's heart ache. Landon sat beside her, gently taking her hand. Your mom would be so proud of you, Angela. She loved you so much, and I believe she's always watching over you, even if you can't see her. Angela's gaze softened a little, but there was still something in her expression that wasn't fully satisfied with Landon's answer. She still couldn't fully understand that real love could transcend all barriers, even the loss of a loved one. A day for the family. The next day, after a week filled with meetings and work, Landon decided to spend the entire day with his small family. Ayana, who had played such a crucial role in Angela's life, joined them in this plan. Together, they would visit the garden where Angela had spent so much time tending to the new plants. It would be the first day they could truly experience peace, the kind of peace a real family brings. Uncle Landon, look! This plant has grown bigger! Angela exclaimed, pointing excitedly at the young plant stretching up from the soil. She had developed a real bond with this garden, as if it symbolized the rebirth of her own life. Ayana looked at the two of them, smiling. You've done a great job, Angela. These plants will grow strong, just like you. You've been through so much, but now you're growing stronger and more beautiful than ever. Angela looked up, her eyes bright. Uncle Landon, we're going to plant more trees, right? Of course, sweetheart, Landon replied, squeezing her hand. We'll plant as many as we can, so that every time you see them grow, you'll remember that you're growing strong every day. Shapituri ni. Overcoming the fear. Though the first days in their new family were peaceful, the fear didn't vanish completely. Angela still had moments of silence, sometimes growing frightened if someone entered the room without warning. She lived in constant vigilance, as though expecting someone to come back and push her away. But Landon and Ayanna didn't give up. Each day they gently reaffirmed that Angela had the right to be loved and the right to live in a family free from fear and pain. One evening, as Angela lay in bed, she looked up and asked Ayanna, "Miss Ayanna, when will I stop being afraid?" Ayanna sat by the bed, gently stroking Angela's hair. "You won't be afraid when you believe you deserve to be loved. And that will come when you feel love every day. All you have to do is let yourself love and be loved." Landon stood in the doorway, watching this peaceful moment. Finally, he understood. Love isn't something you can measure or judge. It's presence. It's those moments when you are together and trust in a brighter future. The first steps of a real family. One morning, as Landon and Ayanna were preparing breakfast, Angela walked into the room, holding an old book, and looked up with confidence. "Uncle Landon, I want to read you a story. I learned it at school yesterday." The story wasn't fictional. It was about a family, a father, a mother, and their children, an actual family. Angela had learned that family wasn't just about blood relations, but about people who love and protect each other. As Angela read the last words of the story, Landon and Ayanna looked at each other, their eyes filled with emotion. They had rebuilt a family not from what had been lost, but from what they chose to build every day. They chose to love, to protect, and to stand by each other. "Uncle Landon, Miss Ayanna, I love you both," Angela said softly, and the whole house seemed to light up with a new love. Landon bent down and embraced her. "We will always love you, Angela. Forever." A bright future. With each passing day, the love and protection Landon, Ayanna, and Angela gave each other became stronger. Every step, every decision, and every smile brought a brighter future for the little girl. They weren't just building a family from the broken pieces of the past. They were building a solid foundation from trust and love. And with each step they took, they realized that family isn't about being connected by blood. It's about the bond created by the heart, by the choices to love each other. Their lives began to change day by day, no longer filled with the exhaustion of pain, but with moments full of joy and hope. Angela, though still very young, was starting to feel the huge difference in her life. She no longer had to live in fear, no longer had to wonder why she wasn't worthy of love. Instead, she had found a real family. One morning, while Landon and Ayanna were taking care of the tasks in the kitchen, Angela ran in, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Uncle Landon, Miss Ayanna, I want to make a special breakfast for you both." She spoke with confidence and happiness, ready to prepare a simple meal that was filled with warmth. Landon looked at her, unable to hide the emotion in his eyes. "You really can, Angela. You've learned how to care for others and share love with everyone." Ayanna smiled and helped her prepare the meal. "Every meal you make, every little thing you share, is a wonderful sign that you're growing, Angela." This simple breakfast full of love felt like a new step for their family. The love and care Ayanna and Landon gave to Angela went beyond just providing for her. It was about giving her a chance to express herself, to learn, and to love herself. A dream for a new future. The next day, when the three of them sat together in the living room, Angela picked up one of her favorite books and asked Landon, "Uncle Landon, do you think when I grow up, what will I do?" Landon looked at her, thought for a moment, and then replied, "You can do anything you love, Angela. You'll decide who you want to be. And no matter what path you choose, Uncle and Miss Ayanna will always be by your side, loving and supporting you." Angela looked at Landon and smiled gently. "I want to be someone like you, helping others and making them feel loved." Landon felt a warm sensation in his heart, and he knew that no matter how many challenges they faced ahead, love and the right choices would always guide them through any difficulty. A new step in life. One afternoon, as the family took a walk in the park, Ayanna suddenly received a call. She looked at the screen and smiled at Landon. "My new job has been confirmed. I'll be in charge of the children's library at the downtown branch." Landon looked at her with pride. "Congratulations, Ayanna. I know you deserve this job." Angela turned around, her eyes full of curiosity. "So Miss Ayanna won't be here anymore?" Ayana smiled, knelt down and hugged her. Sweetheart, no matter where I go, I'll always be by your side. This family is where I belong, and I'll never leave you. Landon looked at Ayana and thought to himself, no matter what the future holds, the most important thing was that they had found each other in this challenging life. They had overcome hardships, pain, and now they had a family, not made of blood, but of love and choice. Love is a choice. A few months later, when everything was starting to settle, Landon and Ayana began talking about their long-term plans. A real family wasn't just about sharing life. It was about building a solid foundation for the future generations. And though they had gone through difficult years, they now realized that true love was a choice. One morning, as Angela was helping Ayana take care of the garden, she looked up and said, Uncle Landon, Miss Ayana, I'm really happy. Thank you both for giving me a family. Landon walked over and hugged her. Thank you, Angela. You're the reason we keep trying every day. Ayana stood beside them, holding Angela's hand. We are a family, and that will never change. The love and care we have for each other is what makes us truly happy. A new journey begins. The three of them sat together in a peaceful afternoon. Angela laughed out loud as she told a funny story from school, and in Landon and Ayana's eyes, they saw hope and peace that they never imagined they would have. Love wasn't something big and extravagant. It was the simple moments where everyone is together, caring for each other. As the night fell, Landon looked at his family, and he knew that no matter how the world outside changed, this family was where he belonged, and it was where he would always protect and love. True love isn't a random emotion, but a choice made every day, a commitment to never leave each other, no matter the challenges. Their family, once made up of the broken pieces of pain and loss, was now built on love, patience, and the choice to live truthfully. The future ahead was no longer filled with fear, but with hope, a belief that better things were coming. Summer arrived in the city, bringing with it a wave of calm that enveloped Landon, Ayana, and Angela's small family. The long, warm days were not only the transition of seasons, but also a symbol of rebirth, of new things waiting for them. Angela, no longer the timid, frightened girl she once was starting to feel the profound difference in her life. Every passing day, she opened her heart more, from the smallest things like picking out the color for her room, to joining in conversations filled with laughter during mealtimes. Landon could feel the joy in her eyes as she spoke about the dreams she had for the future. It was something he never thought he'd see. Success begins with the small things. One morning, as Ayana and Angela were watering the plants in the small garden at the back of the house, Landon watched them, and his heart stopped for a moment. He realized that, aside from the material success he had achieved, the most important thing he had gained was this family. Love wasn't just something abstract. It was about tangible actions, the daily care, the constant presence, and the little things that didn't need much explanation. Landon walked over to Ayana and Angela, resting his hand on Angela's shoulder. You know, Angela, the most wonderful thing isn't success in work or wealth, but the fact that we can be together, building a strong family. Angela smiled, her eyes sparkling as she understood the depth of Landon's words. I know, Uncle Landon. I feel so lucky. New challenges await. Although their family had built a strong foundation, there were still challenges waiting for them ahead. One afternoon, Landon received an unexpected call from an old friend at the company, informing him of a huge opportunity, one full of risks. It was a project he had turned down several times before, but this time, everything seemed different. Landon looked at Ayana, a heaviness suddenly filling his heart. She had become such an important part of his life, not just because of what she had done for Angela, but because of the way she had helped him rediscover what really mattered in life. Ayana noticed the look in Landon's eyes and walked over, placing her hand on his. What's bothering you? Ayana asked, her voice gentle but her eyes sharp. Landon sighed, feeling torn inside. A career opportunity. It could change everything, but it could also destroy everything we built. I don't know what to do. Ayana thought for a moment, then smiled, her calmness like a refreshing breeze. Landon, you've found this family and nothing can replace what we have. Opportunities will come, But this family is the one thing you can never take for granted. Landon looked at Ayana, feeling the strength in her words. She was right. No matter what the future held, what he needed most right now was the peace and presence of his family. Thank you, Landon said quietly, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. I know I have a family, and that's the most precious thing in life. Shifting and choosing love. The next day, Landon decided not to take the opportunity at work. Instead, he focused on his family, especially Angela and Ayana. He understood that no matter how many challenges or opportunities came his way, the most valuable thing was peace of mind and his family. Life wasn't just about working hard to succeed. It was about cherishing the moments spent together, knowing you were never alone. Angela ran over to Landon, grabbing his hand and pulling him outside. Uncle Landon, Miss Ayana, let's go play outside. Landon looked at Ayana, and they both smiled. Okay, sweetheart. Today we'll do something fun. In that moment, Landon felt an overwhelming sense of calm. They didn't need many things to be happy. They only needed each other and the love they shared. The whole family stepped outside, ready to enjoy a sunny day, while the world outside continued to spin. But for them, this was the most important thing, a family that chose to love each other, no matter the trials. True love, Landon knew, wasn't just a feeling. It was a daily choice, a commitment to never leave each other, no matter the challenges. Their family, once built from the rubble of pain and loss, was now constructed from love, patience, and the decision to live authentically. The future ahead was no longer a source of fear, but of hope, a belief that better days were coming.